I'd been secretly hitched to my female boss for 5 years when her close buddy let it slip to me. Casey's thinking about going public soon and even planning a wedding bash. I rang up my wife, who mentioned she'd be on a business trip for the next few days and asked me not to bug her unless it was super important. 3 days later, at the wedding spot, I quietly observed my wife and her new flame-swapping rings and sharing kisses on stage. My work was now tied to her new guy. My wife was tying the knot with someone else, and I was the punchline of this harsh joke. I stood up. She glanced at me, clearly freaking out. "What are you doing here?" I managed a weak smile. "I came to send my blessings, wishing you two a lifetime of happiness together." With that, I sipped my wine and walked out. Just like I thought, Casey didn't follow me. She didn't call or text either. When I saw her next, it was late at night. She stormed in, bringing the chilly night air and the scent of booze with her. For years, I got used to waiting at home. Casey would blow up at me, just like tonight. But I wasn't about to smooth things over without standing my ground this time. "Alex, why were you here today? You shouldn't have shown up. You're just a low-level employee at the company. Your presence at my wedding makes others think there's something going on between us." I only fake married Jamie because it was his longtime wish. We've been buds for years. Fulfilling this one request isn't too much to ask, right? I forced a grin. "So tomorrow, everyone at the company will think you're married to Jamie. You're cool with them seeing you and Jamie as a couple?" Casey immediately frowned at my words. "What's really bothering you? I told you it's a fake marriage with Jamie. Why care what others think? I've been married to you for 5 years. What more do you want? If it wasn't for Jamie, I wouldn't have agreed to marry you then." I went silent. I met Casey in my sophomore year and was smitten from day one. I'd never dated anyone before or even had a crush. To make her fall for me, I brought her breakfast daily, took the same classes, and set up accidental meetups. She took my kindness without question. I thought this showed she loved me back and was deep in the fantasy of a budding romance. Until one day, I saw Casey begging Jamie to take a piece of cake and realized she loved him, not me. Jamie was the heartthrob of our major, the one she idolized. What Casey didn't know was that Jamie partied harder than anyone else. Because of Jamie, I never broke through the final barrier between us. In our graduation year, Casey approached me. She offered to be my girlfriend if I handed over my graduation project. I was thrilled, thinking she saw through Jamie's real colors. But on graduation day, I saw Jamie confidently presenting my work on stage. With my project, Jamie not only became a standout graduate, but also landed a spot at the top company in the country. I wanted answers from Casey, but feared it might wreck our relationship, so I let it go. Shortly after graduation, Casey proposed marriage on the condition that I work at her family's firm and all intellectual property would belong to her. It was a huge shock, something I had always dreamed of. However, after tying the knot, Casey not only kept me distant, but also rarely came home. Later, I found out it was Jamie's idea to marry me and have me join her company. Jamie was struggling at the new job and couldn't meet their programming standards, so he targeted me. If Casey married me, Jamie would have a steady source for his programming needs. Casey agreed to marry me because Jamie promised to always love her, and being in love meant helping each other out. If it wasn't for Jamie's career, I wouldn't have married that country bumpkin. That's what Casey confessed to her bestie while drunk on her birthday, and I was standing right outside the door. I thought if I worked hard enough, she'd love me. I thought if I did enough, she'd see Jamie's incompetence. But over time, I remained just a tool with feelings in her eyes. With my help, Jamie gained fame in the industry, and Casey's company grew bigger. Yet I was still just a lowly employee at her beck and call. Now, whatever love was left in me was snuffed out by this wedding. I wanted to argue with Casey, but all that came out was resignation. "Casey, let's get a divorce." Her face instantly shifted from anger to indifference. "Divorce? What right do you have to ask for a divorce? Ending this marriage is solely my decision. Tomorrow at work, you should know what to say and what not to say. Send me the new program once it's done." Her superior attitude came from my past compliance. But I'm not a machine. I have feelings too. I'll be quitting tomorrow. I'm done with this. Anger flashed across Casey's face. She hadn't expected me to push back. When will you stop making a fuss? I've explained the wedding to you. Haven't things been like this for years? Stop acting crazy. Think it over tonight. We'll talk tomorrow once you've cooled down. Casey always acted like I could just handle everything on my own. The cold wind and rain outside matched my mood, and I mentally put an end to this relationship. The next morning, I went to the company to resign. Just as I reached my desk, my coworker Leo came up to me with a gossipy look. Alex, how did you keep being connected to Casey such a secret? Everyone at the office is talking about it now. You even went to her wedding yesterday to congratulate her. You can't tell me you're not close if you went to that. I don't have anything to do with Casey. I was just passing by yesterday. I saw pics of her wedding and got curious. Casey's a nice person, I said. And as a company employee, she let me in to watch the ceremony. I thought so. No way you have a connection with Casey. You really freaked me out this morning. In this company, everyone knows Casey doesn't like me. Nobody sees me as a friend, and they all think I'll be fired soon. At work, I not only had to develop 2 programs, one for Casey and one for Jamie, but I also helped coworkers with tasks they didn't want to do. Oh, here come Casey and Jamie? I looked towards the voice and saw Casey and Jamie walking hand in hand. Jamie acts like he owns the place when he's here. Let me introduce you again. My husband, Jamie. We just got married yesterday. Congratulations. As for Alex, I just happened to see him at the entrance yesterday and invited him in. We have no special relationship. Don't get it twisted. And this was Casey's first time mentioning me at the company, introducing her man and clarifying there's nothing between us. Yesterday she seemed uneasy seeing me, but today she's cool accepting everyone's blessings in front of me. Casey, how many layers of disguise are you putting on in front of me? During lunch, Casey texted me to meet her in the parking garage. Perfect timing. I needed to hand her my resignation letter. When I got to the garage, Jamie was also there, and they were feeding each other. Just in time, don't come to my mom's birthday party the day after tomorrow. I'll be taking Jamie, Casey said. Wendy is a classic gold digger. Money is her priority, then her daughter. Over the years, as Jamie's career took off, she's been pushing Casey to divorce me and marry Jamie. She has no respect for me as an employee here. When Casey and I first got married, I had to win her and her mom over. Wendy often called while I was working, asking me to pick up her shopping at the mall. A driver could have done it, but I did it myself for 5 years to please my mother-in-law. Stop playing the victim. Jamie and I are married now. It's normal to bring him home. It's not like you, a mere employee, would help my mom save face. I gripped my phone tightly. You don't need to tell me. I told you yesterday I want a divorce. Jamie looked worried when he heard that. Alex, don't be impulsive. Casey and I aren't really married. We'll discuss this more. Casey will get you a promotion. Casey's eyes widened at his words, then reluctantly said, I'll make you the technical director. Now are you happy? No need. I'm quitting this afternoon. Here's my resignation letter. I didn't wait for their reaction. I got out of the car and headed back to my desk. Earlier, I'd set up listening gear in the car's back seat. I planned to record their flirting to use as evidence for the divorce case. I ended up capturing unexpected stuff. I needed to attend that birthday party. On Wendy's birthday, I timed my arrival at her villa perfectly. I was met with disdain from her relatives. I had less status than the maid there, often helping with chores. Casey's company was originally Wendy's creation after her divorce from Ken. She's always been proud of its success. In the living room on the sofa, Casey and Jamie were chatting with her mom, looking cozy. What are you doing here? I didn't tell Casey to invite you. Since you're here, take out the trash, Wendy said first. It's your birthday. I'm here with a special gift, I replied calmly. A gift? What do you have that's worth giving me? My daughter has a big company. I have everything. I'd prefer if you just give Casey and Jamie a wedding, she said. Mom, what are you saying? Casey blushed. Looking at their harmonious scene, I remembered how if it wasn't for Casey's insistence back then, I would have never gotten past Wendy's disapproval. She looked down on my background and job. Jamie had her ideal son-in-law status, being in a top company, while I needed Casey's help to get into theirs. I'm here for 2 reasons: to present a gift and to say that Casey and I have decided to divorce, I announced. Her mom's eyes instantly lit up. Really, don't expect a cent from our family. My daughter worked hard to support you all this time. You're an ungrateful parasite. So what's this gift? Wendy pressed impatiently. Be patient, please. I turned on the recording on my phone. Casey and Jamie's voices filled the room. Casey, you must not divorce Alex. Without him, who will do the programming for us? Jamie said. Jamie, I trust you can handle it. We've tolerated so much. I just want to be with you now, Casey replied. No way. What happens to my career if he's gone? Can you stand to see all my years of hard work just go up in smoke? If push comes to shove, we'll just find another ghostwriter to handle the program. If you're really that worried, I'll transfer my company's shares to you. Look, I've even got the contract ready. What's mine is yours. Really? You're willing to give me everything? I can't bear to see you compromise for me. Yes, really, I'm doing it of my own free will. I call the shots in my company. If you're worried, you can sign right now. Then there was the sound of signing and a bit of smacking lips. The whole room went silent. Wendy was furious and abruptly stood up. Casey, what's going on? Where's the contract? Wendy's attitude shocked Casey. Everybody, please go home for now. Sorry for letting you see this mess. We have family issues to deal with. We'll get together another time. Seeing all the relatives leaving one by one made Casey panic even more. Mom, calm down, okay? Once Jamie and I get the marriage certificate, won't the company still be ours? Jamie's abilities are evident to all, and by then he'll help me manage the company. Wouldn't we be a strong alliance? Wendy shook off Casey's hand and pointed at Jamie angrily. A strong alliance. I may be old, but I'm not deaf. Has he achieved anything on his own? It's all been Alex's doing. Why would you keep this from me? How could anyone have such a good son-in-law and not cherish him? You're even thinking of divorce. How did I end up with such a foolish daughter? Casey was speechless. She didn't expect Wendy to value the company more than her. Alex, it was my mistake to misjudge you before. You're so talented. Why didn't you speak up earlier and instead let misunderstandings brew? I'll promote you. There's a vacancy for vice president at the company. You take it, and in the future, you and Casey can support each other. Shall we also redo the wedding? What kind of ceremony do you like? Tell me, and I'll get someone to organize it. Before I could even respond, Jamie couldn't hold back. Auntie, don't forget, I'm the largest shareholder in the company now. I don't agree to make Alex the vice president. I don't agree. Casey's decisions aren't my decisions. The contract is null and void. You can't dictate this. If necessary, we'll see you in court. Wendy clutched her chest and shouted that Casey was ungrateful and called Jamie a backstabber, while Casey stood by, crying in distress. All the unfair treatment Wendy gave me over the years, you finally got a taste of it too. Seeing the chaos unfold, I quietly slipped away. In the past couple of days, I'd been working with a lawyer to finalize the divorce agreement, just waiting for Casey to sign. Throughout the years with Casey, I'd done my duty honorably. Aside from basic necessities, I didn't plan on taking anything from the house. What I didn't expect was finding some unexpected stuff when I started packing. Casey and I had been sleeping in separate rooms. Over the years, unless something unexpected happened, I wouldn't enter her room. The last time she got drunk, she mistakenly took my headphones. It was one of those rare times I had a reason to go into her room. Those 30 seconds of rummaging through her drawer to find my headphones made my eyes glaze over. Not because of the headphones in the center, but because of the birth control pills in the corner. Opening the box, I saw more than half the pills were gone. Even though Casey and I didn't have much physical intimacy, there were times we got carried away emotionally. I knew she didn't want kids, and on those rare occasions, we took precautions. So part of those missing pills was to ensure there was no chance of having my child. What about the other quarter? Were they used with Jamie? I wasn't naive about the possibility of something happening between Casey and Jamie. but I still felt disgusted and blindsided. I tried hard to cherish this marriage and our home. My love for Casey made me lose myself, but this was my territory, a belief I kept convincing myself to hold on to. Turns out I was fooling myself all along. I gathered my thoughts and my stuff, ready to leave, when I bumped into Casey coming back in. Still looking all proud, she seemed to have reached an understanding with Wendy. "The divorce papers are on the table. Sign them if they look okay to you." Casey eyed me suspiciously. "You're not trying to rob me or something, right? After so many years?" She still didn't get me. "I've submitted my resignation to the company. Make sure to approve it." "You think you'll find another company that'd take you if you leave?" "No way. Once you're gone, there's no coming back." I had no desire or reason to argue or even talk to her anymore. Starting fresh somewhere else, living a new life, was all I wanted. A new company came through a recommendation from my college mentor. After graduation, he kept urging me to leave Casey's company for broader horizons. He knew my skills and passion for the industry and couldn't stand to see me dim my light for love. I reached out to him post-divorce, and despite the years, he was as enthusiastic as ever. He helped me connect with companies, submitted my resume, and vouched for me. Thanks to him, I smoothly transitioned into a new job. My first day, no awkwardness, no tension, no silence as I had imagined. Co-workers eagerly filled me in on project details and helped me blend in. My life was getting back on track when Casey called. It was a lazy afternoon. The phone rang. It was a familiar number. I ignored it the first time. I remembered how badly I wanted Casey's number back when I first liked her. Asking around until I finally got it on a piece of paper. Memorizing it so I wouldn't forget. But I got no reply after nervously sending my first introductory text. When I tried again, I found out I was blocked. When the phone rang a third time, I answered it. Casey's panicked and angry voice came through the receiver. "Alex, where have you been? I've called you so many times before you finally picked up. You promised me you'd be there whenever I called, no matter what." "Yeah, I did promise that before. But I'm not a fool, giving everything without expecting anything back. Besides, I'm not her husband anymore. Casey and I have nothing to do with each other now." "All right, I'll let it slide this time. There's an issue with the company project. The new program development is stuck at the most critical point. We need you to come back." I'd handed over all the projects I was responsible for before I left. The company's issues aren't my concern now. I refused without a second thought. "How can it not be your concern? Didn't you dedicate your efforts to that company? You just want me to go back and keep working for you and Jamie, don't you?" "Forget it. I'm done with you. Handle the company stuff on your own." I hung up the phone after that. I knew which project Casey was talking about. Before I left, I was in charge of it. I'd laid out a rough outline and strategy. Since it was meant for a competition, the program was more complex. If they wanted to finish it, they only had two options. One, if I had a sudden change of heart and decided to help them. Two, they'd have to start over from scratch. But I wasn't feeling generous, so the second option it was. Timing was tight with the competition around the corner. No wonder Casey called me for help. The funny thing was, my new company was also entering this competition. Coincidentally, I was in charge of our entry. For this competition, I'd pulled several all-nighters, tweaking and improving the details. I wondered if Casey would drop out or push through. On the day of the competition, I got to the office early and prepared to leave with my colleagues. Sure enough, when we arrived at the venue, Casey and Jamie were already there. The competition went smoothly through the stages. Towards the end, I glanced at Casey and wasn't surprised to see her prideful and smug expression. That look was all too familiar to me. During college, Casey loved club activities and eagerly participated in every contest. If she was in it, first place never went to anyone else. Casey was used to using money for networking. To her, there was no desire money couldn't satisfy. While I was lost in thought, I heard the judges announce first prize group A, Alex. The moment my name was mentioned, Casey's expression shifted from pride to disbelief. She thought the world outside was like college, where money could change any result. Unfortunately for her, this competition valued fairness above all. I stood up and went on stage to claim my award. Explaining my ideas and creativity, I felt like I had regained the very reason I started studying this field. The evening's party was hosted by the organizers, inviting various companies. There was a constant stream of people wanting to chat with me. Before I could finish a conversation with someone, Casey rushed over and dragged me into a corner. "Alex, why did you enter this competition? How could you use the program you made for me? A group? How did you even get into a group? Did the boss's wife take you in or something?" "Casey, don't project your dirtiness onto me. We broke it off 2 months ago. The program I did for your company? I wouldn't reuse it even if I could. If you can't make use of the frameworks and ideas, that's on you." My words made Casey's eyes tear up. As she instinctively raised a hand to slap me, I stepped aside. "Alex, don't you love me anymore? You told me you'd love me forever." I calmly straightened the wrinkles on my suit. "Don't come near. With that obvious wedding ring on your hand, you're not thinking of making me the other man, are you?" Hearing my words, Jamie, who'd been hiding behind a column, couldn't hold back any longer. "Alex, you've gone too far. Casey was your wife, and you have the nerve to slander her?" Jamie held Casey's hand. "Look closely. We've been married for a month now. Put away whatever thoughts you have." I couldn't help but laugh. "Jamie, you came with Casey today because you got fired from your last job, didn't you?" I heard Jamie got the boot. A leading domestic company and their tech VP suddenly couldn't code one day. That news spread fast in the industry. With me covering for him these past years, he'd forgotten all the know-how. All day, he'd slack at work, then hit up bars and hotels after hours. Casey just didn't know. She naively thought Jamie went to bars and hotels for business deals. She'd scolded me more than once for heading home after work, calling me a bad businessman. I thought he'd tone it down after marriage, but looking at his frazzled state, he's clearly been living it up. Jamie didn't expect me to strike him where it hurt. "Fired? Do you believe such nonsense? I have shares now. Why work hard for someone else? You're just another regular worker. We'll see." With that, I turned away and moved back to the spotlight that was rightly mine. The faint arguing and insults behind me were just background noise on my way back into the limelight. Months passed just like that. During this time, I took on one big project after another by myself and racked up considerable achievements for the group. My mentor called and said the boss specifically sent a message praising my performance lately. They're planning to promote me by the end of the month. Besides that, because of work, I got to know Vivian from the department downstairs. We clicked right away. Every time we bumped into each other and had our daily chats, it reignited that feeling of being in love. During our lunch breaks, we'd meet at the staircase between floors, sharing funny stories from our lives or venting about work troubles. And in the warmth of those daily conversations and heart-to-heart exchanges, Vivian and I got together. Since we were on different floors, the company didn't mind us dating. While everything was going so well, I found out that Casey's company had gone bankrupt. Jamie took over the company but didn't achieve anything great and even lost the trust of old clients. After struggling for months, they announced the closure. In the news, Jamie and Casey looked utterly defeated. They couldn't pay wages and got surrounded by upset employees. Their house and car were mortgaged because of debts. When Wendy heard the news, she fainted from the shock and is still in the hospital. This karma for Casey and Jamie, who stole years of my hard work. But I never expected Casey to show up at my company's entrance. That day, Vivian and I were leaving work together as usual. As we got to the entrance, a disheveled woman suddenly rushed at us, begging me to take her in. Vivian and I were both startled, and when I looked closely, I realized it was Casey. "Alex, please save me. I'm homeless now." Casey was covered in dirt, smelling like rotten vegetables and eggs. Instinctively, I held Vivian's hand and took a few steps back. Those few steps made Casey look up at me. "Who's this woman next to you? How long has it been since we separated? And you're with someone else? Didn't you say you loved me most?" Casey looked at me, disbelief in her eyes. "Casey, stop fooling yourself. Okay? Last time we met, I made it clear. Stay out of my life. This woman beside me is who I want to spend my life with. Go back to your husband. Don't come looking for me. Casey crawled up to me on her knees. I messed up. I really messed up. Please save me. Jamie took the last of my money and disappeared. You're all I have left. Alex, for the sake of our years together, please help me. Let me have something to eat. Casey's tears wouldn't stop. People were coming and going at the company's entrance, and quite a few passers-by captured the scene. Casey, the best relationship we can have is no relationship. Don't look for me anymore. I shook off Casey's hand, held Vivian's hand tightly, and walked away. The next day, someone posted a video of Casey online. It caught a lot of attention, and people immediately recognized the ex-CEO. As the news of the company's closure spread in the industry, it also became known that Casey handed all her shares to Jamie. Their family drama became a huge gossip topic. After that day, Casey disappeared and no one knows where she went. 2 years later at the company, because of my outstanding performance, I was promoted early to become the technical director. It was a significant boost in my life. As Vivian and I grew closer, we started planning our wedding. We planned the wedding just the way we both wanted. Over the past year, we've learned to understand each other so well, we can communicate with just a glance. Finally, I have the complete family I always wanted.